Does your ass smell? Do you want to feel fresh and clean all day long? Of course you do. That's why you need soap. Soap is specifically formulated to gently clean, leaving you feeling refreshed and confident. Washing your ass with soap provides more than just a clean feeling. It helps to maintain good hygiene and can even reduce the risk of skin irritation and infection. Soap, the simple solution for a clean and refreshed ass. Try it today and feel the difference. Soap, available wherever they sell soap.
If we could get our podcast onto Pornhub, we'd triple our listeners. It's doable. We just need to be prepared to show a little skin.
Yeah, Kevin, we show a little skin every night to each other. And unfortunately,
well,
too
I've
much
got
skin.
my joystick out and I'm ready to toggle it, so let's get into it.
Oh, God.
I'll use small words that you'll be sure to understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What did you say?
You are a sad, strange little man.
Don't call me stupid.
Hello, and welcome to The Best Bits, a movie podcast where we pick our favourite scenes from randomly selected, weirdly specific themes. This is your co-host Will, a writer of 3 films plus a Christmas special. And I'm joined, once again, by my co-host and writer of 1 and a bit films and 3 and a bit episodes of TV, Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
Hadouken!
I see you brought out the old SNES over the past week, Kevin.
And therein lies all of my references that I can make for this episode. Hello, Will. How are you?
I'm great. Specifically because I had to spend the last week preparing for this topic, which is best video game scene.
Well, I'll tell you this much, Will. We usually focus on the good films and we highlight the ones we like. So this will be a brisk 10-minute episode.
Yes. Before we get into talking about the actual films that we watched or that we've maybe suffered through, I suppose is another way of putting it, this past week, I want to hear about your history with video games. What your relationship is with that entertainment format. Because I don't really know what your video gaming habits are.
I didn't have video games growing up.
Okay.
My cousin had a SNES and I played Street Fighter 2 with him a lot.
Right.
And one time my cousin as well robbed the coffee jar that was filled with money from above the counter of the kitchen of his house, and the two of us went down to Leisureplex when we were 7 and 8 and we spent £30 on Rampage playing the arcade game until we got home and got leathered. And well, I was working at Extravision and I was able to get a PS2.
Yeah.
And I remember playing Grand Theft Auto games, loving those. Driving around like a lunatic, just getting all the cops to chase me, smashing into things. And I played one of the Lara Croft games, which was based in Paris. 2003 this was. I was enjoying it, and I was probably about, 2 levels into the game. And there was a graveyard and a mausoleum, and I fell down between the railings in the mausoleum. Yeah. And for about 7 days, I couldn't get out of it. And I tried everything, and I decided, fuck this. This is not enjoyable. I put the PS2 aside, used it to play DVDs, and I've never played any games since. I find video games stressful. I don't get the appeal of them being relaxing at all. So that's the extent of my history with video games.
I'm just imagining poor Lara Croft still stuck down the side of this grave or whatever. She's
and I'm like, how the fuck are you supposed to get out of here? Jump, climb, jump.
And you couldn't reload it. You couldn't just do a factory reset or anything.
No, it went right back to that spot every time. I was practically stuck there. And I was looking up on the internet, how do I get out of here? I couldn't even articulate what it was. It was like, I'm stuck between a mausoleum and a railing in the level in the graveyard, and I can't get out of it, and I can't reboot the game.
Oh my!
It was just, it was so frustrating.
So it ended there for you with leaving Lara Croft abandoned.
Well, I pretty much almost took the disc out of the machine and snapped it. I spent 7 days. I would try for an hour, and I'm talking a full hour of like trying to climb out of that hole over and over and over and over and over again. And I would get frustrated. I'd put it away, and I'd come back the next day and think something might change. Stuck again. After spending whatever it was, 250 quid on it, I just wanted to smash the thing. So,
Kevin, I think that was a blessing from the gods, because I think, and this doesn't mean to be, I don't mean to offend you when I say this, I don't think you have the right personality type to be a gamer. As in, it would bring out the worst in you. That's what what you're just describing to me there, of you getting so angry at it and wanting to smash it. I can imagine some of them.
Well, I don't get road rage, so I don't think. Look, the game was taking the piss, so I'm bound to get annoyed with a game when it's deliberately fucking me over. Although one time I was playing, was it the Super Mario cartridge where all 4 of the Super Mario games were on one? Mm-hmm. And there was one where Mario could grow a beaver's tail.
Oh, yeah.
You could
Super Mario All-Stars. I think that's the game you're thinking of, where the cartridge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't die in that game. There was a glitch in it. So, yeah, it was impossible for me to die. So I had like about 400 lives. Oh, so I would just clear the whole game, and I would just keep like putting on the beaver character and just flying all over the place.
Wow.
So I've had good experiences, I've had bad experiences. Man. When it comes to the movies, I've only had bad experiences. So let's
change it. I want to give you my own experience with video games a little bit, like, so that our listeners have a bit of a context. I suppose I can qualify myself as being a gamer. I started off, I was lucky enough to have older brothers, or one specific older brother, who bought a computer, an Amstrad 464, back in the late 80s, which was kind of an equivalent to a Commodore, where you used to put in cassette tapes. The games used to come on cassette tapes, and you'd have to load them for 15 minutes. And maybe they would load, or maybe they wouldn't load, to actually play an incredibly bad version of Ghostbusters 2. Or Batman, or RoboCop, or something like that, or Predator. So there was all these really like crappy,
like side scrollers.
Yeah, some of them side scroll, mostly side scrollers. Yeah,
there you go. I used the term.
Good man. You are a gamer.
Thank you.
You are technically a gamer.
I am.
You could employ
I know
that.
my shit. So I spent 30 quid on Rampage. I know what I'm talking about.
I think I was immersed in games. I loved games from when I was little, when I first got to an arcade in Ballybunion and got into that Star Wars cabinet. And I was fucking hooked back then. The idea that I could pilot an X-Wing, even though it was these just isometric wireframe objects, I was piloting an X-Wing down the trench of the Death Star. And that was, I think, a pivotal moment for me. And from then on, I was, I think, hooked on games. I love games. To this day, I've owned a console of every generation. So, I played them all, man. I played all the big games. So a lot of these films that have been adapted, I've played the original games. Not all of them, but a fair amount of them.
Mm-hmm. So we're yin and yang on this.
Yeah.
I'm coming at this purely from, I'm judging the films without having any experience of the video games, the source material at all. Mm-hmm. And you have more of an insight into that than I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't play games, but I wrote a movie that became a game.
Oh my God.
Did you know that Grabbers was a mobile app game?
I didn't know this, Kevin. Wow. Is it? What was it? What was the point of the game? What was the objective? To kill the Grabbers.
The point of the game was to celebrate the film and to have fun, with the characters from the film.
But what was the game? What were you doing?
You were just going around the pub smacking shit out of little Grabblings, and you could play as Lisa, O'Shea, or Smith, Russell Tovey's character. Yeah, it was a free mobile app game.
Oh, cool.
And I don't think it's been updated since. So it no longer plays. But yeah, it was fun. It was a novelty. It was like I was playing it and going, wow, this is so immersive. This is like really, I was dreaming about it, That it was like
you just couldn't wait to wake up in the morning and just load up that app again and get yourself back in the pub snapping Grabblings.
Yeah, I didn't make a penny off it. So anyway,
why I enjoy video games is that it's not about, I don't go to a video game for its plot. I don't go to a video game for the characters. I generally go to a video game because of the mechanics, what I actually do. What I actively do in the game. Mario was a class video game because it was tough as shit. And you made this little Mario bounce.
Not if you had the
screen.
one that I had.
Oh, yeah, you had the what's the word? You had the patched one, the glitched cheat patched one. But I try and play Mario now. Like, I didn't grow up, we didn't have a SNES, so I didn't play Mario. I always dreamed of playing Mario, never got the chance. But my wife grew up with Mario with a SNES. And you can still play these old Mario games now on like my kid's Switch, like, you know. And my God, when she picks it up, she's like a savant playing it. Like, she's like
playing the piano.
Yeah, she's like the kid in the Wizard. You know, she can just go blah blah blah, blah and like, you know, all of a sudden she's number 10 in the world. Like, you know, I just don't have that muscle memory to be able to pull that off. Like, you know, and so
yeah,
it's a game. You're not playing a narrative. You're playing a game which has got rules. It has obstacles. It has bosses to beat and levels to conquer. It's all about being engaged with that experience and being engaged with the aesthetic of that world as well. It's not really about the plot and the character because they're pretty two-dimensional, especially those side-scrollers. We're all literally two-dimensional.
But haven't they started to introduce more and more elaborate cutscenes?
Oh, it's gone beyond that, man. We'll get to that.
I used another term.
You did. You fucking did. Really, really. It's actually gotten cutscenes, you know, they've moved beyond cutscenes where it's actually like interactive moments in the game. And, you know, it's incredible what they're doing now.
What was the first adaptation of a video game to a movie?
The first one that I know of that I found was an adaptation of Super Mario. It was a Japanese animated movie, and it was around 1986 or something like that. No, I might be wrong, but that's the first one that I came across. The first US one. And what I'm going to primarily do in this episode is focus on the adaptations that came out in the US because there are too many animated adaptations of Pokemon games alone.
Oh God, fucking hell. There's like 23 of them.
Yeah, there's a shit
I looked it up. One of our Patreon backers, John O'Callaghan, recommended to me to watch the first Pokemon movie. And when I Googled Pokemon movie, up came 23 other titles. And I thought, I'm so excited to watch all of them. And so I didn't watch any of them. I did watch one adaptation of a Pokemon movie, but I'll talk about that later on.
Right.
But what I did watch, which is an animated film, was the Street Fighter 2 animated Japanese film, which came out the same year as the Jean-Claude Van Damme Kylie Minogue version with Raul Julia.
How did you do?
I won.
Came out in 1994. It was bloody. It was one of those hilariously dubbed films where you had like Ryu saying, "I'm going to punch your ass, Bison," and Bison saying, "I don't give a shit," and just finding that hilarious. But it was something that was specific, I think, to the Japanese culture. It felt like, I would sooner have played the game than watched that. Although I did enjoy the original live action film, even though it's terrible.
Okay. It's terrible.
Game over!
It's cool. I'm going to kick Bison's ass.
I don't think so.
You'll have to do better than that.
Okay. Now, who wants to go home and who wants to go with me?
There was something quite nostalgic about watching a really bad, expensive video game movie where none of the characters resemble the video game avatars. And yeah, it just felt like, God, this takes me back. It's a weird thing when you get older, you become nostalgic for the things you didn't even like at the time, but they take you back to that time.
Yeah.
And you feel like, oh God, Barbie Girl by Aqua. I detested that song, but no, it takes me right back to walking up Grana Bra in the rain, going up to my nan's house and school bag weighing me down and got homework to do. And it's a strange thing. Anyway, I enjoyed revisiting that film, even though I didn't enjoy the film, if that makes sense.
I totally, because I watched Street Fighter for the very first time for this episode. I never saw it. I knew it was that bad. It had such a bad reputation, and I had such a little interest in watching it that I just never even bothered to watch it in the 90s when it came out. And it was
it felt like it was taking more of its cues from the Power Rangers than
it was video game. This was a curious thing. I was thinking about it though, right? Because Street Fighter, basically, it's a beat 'em up where if I'm sure everyone knows what Street Fighter is. It's a basic beat 'em up, right? And the obvious adaptation of that game would be a Bloodsport type movie or a Kickboxer, where Bloodsport was basically Street Fighter the movie, right? But Street Fighter doesn't do the tournaments thing. It becomes this, Street Fighter is this hybrid of a James Bond action romp, cartoon romp, and it avoids the actual fighting a huge amount. It's really, really odd.
I think I mentioned on the fight scenes episode where we went 12 rounds that Enter the Dragon was later adapted by the makers of Street Fighter as that being a really good source material for that video game. So it's a video game that has taken its cues from that film, which took its cues from James Bond or what have you. So yeah, and there's an interesting history to that. But did you know that the original Street Fighter was directed by Stephen E. D'Souza, who wrote Die Hard?
I did know that. Absolutely. I listened to him, a couple of interviews with him, talking about the experience, and he sounded like a character. He really wanted to do. Oh, I think he wrote the original when he was pitching it. I think he wrote the original. He said screenplay, but I think it sounded like a treatment, like overnight, and gave that to the company. I can't remember the games company that were the Japanese execs were over. Capcom, there you go. And wrote it overnight, sent it to them, and that was the movie they shot. And it was it's fucking nuts. Most of the budget went to Jean-Claude Van Damme's salary.
And his hair.
And they shot it in Australia, so hence the Kylie Minogue casting. But they also had a big...
Are you sure about that? I thought they shot an awful lot of it in...
Malaysia,
Thailand, I believe.
Maybe
Malaysia.
Yeah, they shot some of it. Certainly did shoot some of it in Australia as well. Definitely.
Right.
But
that film could be drastically improved if they just give. Well, first of all, God is an odd choice for the protagonist of that film. But if they just gave Jean-Claude Van Damme one of those huge big quiffs, that would have drastically improved that film.
Yeah, it would. It should have added. But
Brushhead.
It was Raul Julia's like he was very, very ill with cancer at the time, so it was his last film. And what they were, the plan was that they were supposed to shoot all of the, shoot all of Raul Julia's stuff first and rehearse for all the fight stuff. But the problem was when Raul Julia showed up on set, he was
so sick.
Sick. And so they had to flip it around. So they had to shoot all the action scenes and fight stuff with no rehearsals. First of all, that's why the fight stuff looks awful, and try and build him up for his scenes near the end. So it was
they were doing the fight scenes with no rehearsal whatsoever. It was just like, okay, duck, punch, pull this person back on wires, and action.
Yeah,
that was it.
It's a sad story. It really is. What we had was, as you just pointed out, in those games, and a lot of those games in the 80s and 90s were cheap photocopies of popular movie characters. Like, you know, as you were just saying about the Enter the Dragon thing, we also have like Lara Croft as Tomb Raider, and she's kind of like a female Indiana Jones with boobs. You know, they're pinching from that. They're pinched from Rambo in various different ways. So to see them like retranslated back on the big screen, it's very, very odd.
What was Rambo inspiring? Paperboy?
Super Mario. Sonic. I think of like games like Contra, and there was a lot of like action, you know, muscly action movie hero shooters out there as well.
Gotcha.
Staying in that era of the 90s, right? Did you ever watch the other action beat 'em up adaptation, Mortal Kombat?
Mortal Kombat!
Each of us, there burns the fury of a warrior. In every generation, a few are chosen to prove it.
One of you three will decide the outcome of the tournament.
3 strangers will travel to the mystical realm of Outworld to defend our people against Shang Tsung.
You will die.
And his forces of darkness in an ancient tournament. One more victory.
Your soul is mine.
And our world is theirs.
It has begun.
You can't run from me, Shang!
I don't need to run.
I can't even do that. I can't even remember the song, but it was something like that.
Oh, it is the most 90s techno soundtrack you could imagine. And Combat with a K. Did you watch the movie? And did you play the game?
I did. No, I didn't play the game. What was the game? The game was probably on the Sega, was it, or something?
I was a Sega game, yeah. Sega was the cool, edgy console. SNES was the cute, cuddly one, and Sega was like, you know, cool and tough. It had Sonic with attitude.
Never played the game. Saw it a lot in arcades. It looked way too difficult for me to play. I would just be burning money. And the film, I didn't have any nostalgia for the film. So I watched the film for this recording, and the effects are so bad. It was a better version of Street Fighter than the Street Fighter film was.
Now, I'm like you. I avoided this as well, just like I avoided Street Fighter. I should have been like the perfect...
But it had your hero in it, Christopher Lambert.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was amazing. He was amazing as a cheap Gandalf, you know, in sandals.
Yeah.
He was white-haired and a white robe.
Squinty Gandalf.
It was awful. He had blue eyes, one blue east and the other blue west.
Oh, God. And you tell me to cop on. Okay.
But you know what? The thing about it is I watched it, and this film does the tournament aspect or the tournament adaptation.
Yeah.
Right? It at least tries to accurately recreate the characters on the big screen.
Give them their moves.
So there's one thing that impressed me about the film was there was the character of Goro, right? So there's this one character, this 4-armed
double-armed
kind of like, beast thing. And when I watched it last week, because the film is littered with really atrocious early CG effects, like really bad. And when Goro was introduced on screen, I literally went, how are they doing that? Like, I was so impressed because I've seen so many bad effects up to that point. It was all done with an animatronic, like this really impressive, like animatronic with a puppeteered face and all that sort of stuff. But it was an really effective visual effect.
Yeah.
When you see a visual effect like that, where a character is real into space, then, you know, it makes you realize
you forgive it its rubbery, textury. Skin, you know?
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. It's there.
That was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson before he had the WS. And I think it's not great, but I think there's ambition there.
He is to video game adaptations what Roland Emmerich is to disaster movies.
Yes. He has made so many. He's been basically making video game adaptations for over 20 years. And
more.
Oh, yeah, probably. That was 95. So, yeah, we're going on 25 years, 27 years. 27 years now. Yeah, Jesus Christ. And his name will come up again and again with all the various films if we go through all the different bloody films. But hopefully we won't. But yeah, I think Mortal Kombat, the original one, was actually a cute artifact from the time. It's so 90s.
Mortal Kombat!
I can't do the music. It's just that's that techno music. As that does more to me, that brings me back to that 90s more than Street Fighter movie does. I can feel my guys, I can imagine guys walking around wearing Joe Blogg's jeans and
oh my God.
Kevin has just died of embarrassment.
Oh, sense memory. Turned up Joe Blogg's jeans.
Oh, I never had a pair. Never wanted them.
I had a pair of them. Yeah.
Did you? Oh, they're awful stuff.
Horrible.
Awful stuff. I watched Super Mario for the first time this week. And
it's a wonderful adaptation of the video game.
It's so accurate.
It is.
It captures the tone.
You're in a sewer city. What was it about the 90s big IP adaptations like that where they were so grubby and dirty and filthy looking, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie as well?
Yeah.
It's like, why did they translate them and make them that just skeevy? Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Slime monsters and shit pipes and what? Bizarre.
Drug heads. Criminals. It was an awful time. It was
gelled hair.
It was awful. There was nothing about they literally. It was more like, as I said, it was as if Terry Gilliam had been given the opportunity to adapt Super Mario, and having never ever seen a Mario game or any reference material whatsoever. They just went, Terry Gilliam, 2 plumbers get sucked through a pipe and off you go.
And they don't do any plumbing. It's not one that I'm going to recommend. No way.
Oh, fuck it, no. Again, so we've kind of had all misses, so far in the 90s. And all these movies, they weren't exactly huge box office hits either, It wasn't until a little film in 2001 that we actually have our first proper box office hit video game adaptation. And it was
Animatrix. Oh.
It was Tomb Raider, of course. The one starring Angelina Jolie.
Play.
Born in 12.
The future is yours now, Lara. The all-seeing eye.
Groomed by the elite.
Have you ever heard of the Clock of Ages?
It gives its possessor power of the people of the light.
And trained for combat.
We can be partners.
You might try to kill me.
I'm not going to kill you.
I said you'd try.
Did you see Tomb Raider and its sequel, Tomb Raider and the Cradle of Life? Did you see them when they first came out, or have you ever watched them?
No.
You've never watched them, ever?
No.
They were shit. Those films were shit. But the thing is, Kevin, they made money. And so it paved the way for the era of the 90s in which we got a fucking shit ton of video game adaptations. Do you want me to rattle them off to you? I'll rattle them off and see if anyone tweaks you. Okay, so here we go. So Final Fantasy 2001, Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, Tomb Raider 2,
Seen it.
House of the Dead, Resident Evil 2, whatever it was called, Blood Rain, Doom,
Didn't see
Alone
it.
in the Dark,
Didn't
DOA,
see it. Didn't see it.
Silent Hill,
Didn't see it.
Hitman,
Seen it.
Blood Rain,
Seen it.
Postal,
Didn't see it.
In the Name of the
Seen
King, Max Payne, Far Cry, Alone in
Seen
the Dark
it.
2,
Didn't see it.
Street
Didn't
Fighter,
see it.
The Legend of Chun-Li. Like,
Seen
we
it.
had a shit ton of
Silent Hill is not bad, actually.
I
kind of liked the Silent Hill.
I meant to watch. I've played the game and I meant to watch it, but everyone said it was so scary. I kind of went,
Yeah, the film is very intense and it's very evocative. I liked the aesthetic of the film, which I know is taken directly from the game. I remember I didn't rewatch it for this, but I did see it I think he came out in 2006.
Yep.
There was a few character turns that I bristled with, but the film itself I thought was good. I thought it was the best video game adaptation up until that time. So I want to mention that one because I think that surely has got to be in the top tier, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon! Sharon! Somebody! Help!
Christopher, Sharon's gone. I need your help. I'm not okay. Please, hurry.
The fire started 30 years ago.
I don't know what's happening. Do you know what's going on here?
This place is completely cut off.
Only the dark one opens and closes the door to Silent Hill.
Where is she? I'm trying to find my wife.
She looks exactly like Sharon.
Why? Rose, come on! Rose, hurry! It's coming!
The only ones that I really liked were two films, and one of them is not even a video game movie. It's a movie about video games.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw King of Kong, the documentary about hobbyist gamers who are going for the world record. And I thought it was brilliant.
Well, Donkey Kong, without question, is the hardest game.
That's a tough machine. People think that the machine is possessed.
The average Donkey Kong game doesn't last a minute. It's absolute brutality.
The mysterious player from the West Coast, Steve Weeb, is here.
He could beat it if he'd have to have a really good game.
You want to put a score up, you're competing against everybody in the world.
It's not even about Donkey Kong anymore.
He's a very devious person. He works things out to his ends very well.
Well, Billy Mitchell always has a plan.
World Record Headquarters, can I help you?
Well, maybe they'd like it if I lose. I gotta try losing sometime.
No matter what I say, it draws controversy. It's sort of like the abortion issue.
You recommended it to me, and I had heard of it, and I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I got completely swept up in it, and I think of all the protagonists in all these movies, the most compelling one of all was Steve Weeby.
Yeah.
And this good-natured father of two who was slightly on the spectrum, at least his wife thinks that he was, or his mom thinks that he was, who had this compulsion to play Donkey Kong, one of the most difficult games to play, 22 levels to get to a kill screen and get the world record. And this guy had fallen short of everything in his life, all these goals he set for himself, and he felt that he wasn't really, he wasn't the best at anything, and he wanted to be the best at something. And you just saw this very decent, wholesome guy try really hard for a symbolic prize, which was, I don't know, to feel like that he mattered in some way, which was a very odd yearning within him, because he had a supportive wife, he had two great kids, he was liked by his students, and he enters into this competitive arena against sort of a cabal.
And so he's playing Billy Mitchell, who is the champion for several of these incredibly difficult arcade games, including Donkey Kong. Questionably holds up. But why he's a darling is because he's a great spokesperson. He's incredibly charismatic in his own way, like an ambassador for these old arcade video games, and everyone adores him. Absolutely everyone. He's got his own like set of minions, you know, that kind of do his bidding and look up to him as if he was some incredible deity. And it's an incredible story of David versus Goliath. It's an outsider who is. You know, the thing about Steve...
I was rooting for Steve Weeby so much.
You really
I just really wanted him to win.
Do you know what my favorite scene in that film, and this was actually almost going to be my best pick of this topic, was the scene in which he beats, this is like halfway through the film, he's recording himself on a video camera when he sits down to play these games that could take,
I know what you're going to say,
can take up to 3 or 4 hours to set a record.
Yeah.
He finally passes a record that he's Billy Mitchell's record, which hasn't been beaten since 1982. He's there in his garage doing it, and he's fucking beating the record. And he's obviously there alone with his toddler child. And all of a sudden, you can hear the toddler screaming.
For years and years, it was believed that Billy's record of 874,000 in 1982 was really the highest score anyone would ever get. And in fact, some of us have played this game every day or every week or every month since then, and no one's gotten close to that.
No one across that big length of time will ever be able to beat his world record.
Derek, look. You're on TV. See yourself? Say hi.
No. I was having the game of my life. I think I got 600,000, and I hadn't died yet. And when I start hearing some noises coming down the stairs, screaming.
I don't believe this is happening, guys. Wipe your bottom? I will in a second, bud. What? Okay, bring me some toilet paper, buddy. Derek, I'm gonna get the world record, Derek. Derek, I'm gonna get the world record.
Don't wait!
Derek?
No!
Derek! You stop it!
It's all on tape, and that's the tape I had to send into the Twin Galaxies.
And I know that agony. You're in the middle of something as a parent. It sounds like it's child abuse, but it's fucking not. It's like that moment where they probably just peed. They'll be fine. Just give me 5 more minutes, please. And he fucking beats the record despite having this interruption with the kid. It's incredible. It's one of those moments of pure triumph.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it is really enjoyable. It's look, I've watched maybe 25 films for this. I've probably watched another 30 odd over the years. This is one of 2 that I want to recommend, and it's a great documentary on these very OCD type characters who are obsessively, compulsively playing old arcade games, and they each have their own disciplines and strengths. And this guy has made it his life's mission to be good at one thing. And if he can do it, then it feels like it's going to unburden him from so much disappointment or just sort of self-flagellation that he's brought upon himself that he doesn't need to do. You just feel like you're rooting for him because he just feels like he's that close to being the best in the world at one thing. And if he can do that, how cool would that be?
Yeah, man.
And I'm rooting for him to do it.
It's a great film, and I can't recommend it highly enough. I really can't.
So that's the one which is about gaming, but the one that is an adaptation of a game, and I didn't know this was a game until I started asking around. The one that I thought, I really enjoyed this. I thought this is a fun movie, and it surprised the shit out of me because there was nothing about it when it originally came out that drew me in. But I watched it for this episode and I discovered that I really liked it. And it was Detective Pikachu.
Oh, very good. I watched it too. Yeah, fantastic.
So there I was. I woke up with a heavy case of amnesia in the middle of nowhere. The only clue to my past is Harry's name and address inside this hat. So I made my way to the apartment, and that's when I found you and your stapler gun.
Stop talking! You're a hallucination!
You're a hallucination.
So you're a talking Pikachu with no memories who's addicted to caffeine.
I could stop whenever I want. These are just choices. Another round, extra shot, black as night. Thank you, sweetie. I don't know. Maybe Harry got in too deep. Mixed up with the wrong crowd, that kind of thing. Look, you can talk to humans. I can talk to Pokemon. And if you want to find your pops, we're gonna need each other.
No, I don't need a Pokemon.
What about a world-class detective? Ah, my clues!
What is all this?
Harry is still alive. Case closed, but still open until I solve it. All right, here it is. Harry faked his own death. Or somebody else faked Harry's death. Or Harry faked somebody else's death. That last one doesn't work at all.
Tell me
I
more,
still
Kevin.
don't have a fucking clue what the Pokemon are about. I don't understand why there are so many different types of Pokemon. Some of them are like marionettes. Some of them are like little dragons. Some of them are little furry lightning bolt Furbies.
Yeah.
I don't know what species they are. I don't know what the mission is. But the film was really charming. It was beautifully shot. And it gave me several moments where I properly guffawed because the film felt slightly demented.
Yeah.
It sort of reminded me a little bit of like the 90s movies, the bad 90s movies, but done with so much gloss.
Mm-hmm.
And in a sort of a Roger Rabbit style.
Yeah.
So if I had watched Roger Rabbit with having no exposure to any of the animated characters and was just like watching them going like, what's a Daffy Duck, or what's a Wile E. Coyote, or what's a Betty Boop? That was how I went into Detective Pikachu, where the moment where I thought, okay, I like this film, was when the lead guy, Justice Smith, is sort of an orphan, classic archetypal orphan. He's investigating the disappearance, or as he thinks, the murder of his father. And he gets teamed up with Pikachu, you know, a little squeaky Pikachu, Pika Pika.
Yeah.
Who's voiced by Ryan Reynolds, who is surprisingly really funny in the role.
I'm so glad. Go on.
I thought he might be phoning it in. I thought, you know, I'm getting really bored of Ryan Reynolds doing this slight shtick thing. I really didn't like Free Guy. I've got to throw that in there because I watched that as well when it came out. But this one I really did like. And the moment where I felt like I'm on board with this movie is Pikachu, who only Justice Smith can understand. They can verbally communicate the way that like Chewie and Han can, but we could actually hear what Chewie is saying if Chewie had like a Ryan Reynolds voice. They go to a bar and they ask for a drink. And one of the Pokemon is like a barman. And then Justice goes, I'll have another. And the Pokemon goes, ah! And that's all he does. That's all he does. He's just scream. This sort of like terrified, angry scream. And I thought, what the fuck is that? And I guffawed. I thought, this film is bonkers.
Okay, so you're a talking Pikachu with no memories who's addicted to caffeine.
I could stop whenever I want. These are just choices. Another round, extra shot, black as night. Thank you, sweetie.
I'm sure there's people that are like so into Pokemon watching it and going like, oh my God, there's Snuffleupagus or whatever. But for me, it was like, the barman just screamed at the top of his lungs when they asked him for another beer, and he's a little furry creature thing, and I just thought it was hilarious. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I don't know whether it was always worn down by all the bad video game movies, but I thought that one was really charming and fun and beautifully shot.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It had this lovely neon vibe to it. I loved the animation. I loved how the world felt incredibly rich and detailed. I think it's such a genuinely funny film. And you want to know what my favorite scene from that film is when they're trying to track down a lead and figure out what happened. And they encounter a Pokemon who is just a mime artist. And so they interrogate the Pokemon.
But what are these species?
I don't know what that type of Pokemon was. I'll have to ask my son because he's into Pokemon. And they take him into a warehouse and they do good cop, bad cop, but they mime, and this is Justice Smith is doing all the miming here. So an awful lot of the success of the scene is on his shoulders and the animator's shoulders, and he mimes going into this little room that this invisible
demented
room, and he unscrews a can of petrol and pours it over
and sets him on fire.
And accidentally sets him on fire. It's very, very, very funny, and that's physical
comedy.
It
really is.
Pipe. Yes. Okay. I can. Shoving. Pushing. My problem is that I push people away and then hate them for leaving.
He's saying you can shove it.
What? I can shove it? Okay, that's it. No, we're switching roles. I'm bad cop, you're good cop.
No, we're not cops.
Oh, God, that's a very hard wall.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Mime has the ability to make invisible walls.
Yes, I know. I happen to be a Pokemon too, remember?
Look, Harry figured this guy out somehow. I think the trick is getting inside his head. I have an idea.
What are you doing?
Oh, what's this?
Oh, there's a door there. I didn't, probably because it's invisible.
Yeah. I'm in your space now, right? You don't want this so much, do you?
What are you doing? That's a jug. Okay, no, you're pouring.
No.
Salt. It's a salt shaker. You're cooking.
No.
Real cooking is about following your heart, not a recipe.
What are you talking about?
Gas. You're pouring gasoline. That went dark fast. I like this very much.
I think, no, I'm not really going to get into too much detail about the current crop of big video game movies like that have come out in the current era, because I do think Detective Pikachu has come out. We had films like Assassin's Creed, more Resident
Sonic.
Sonic movie, of course, that was all right because I enjoyed Jim Carrey in it. Warcraft, Duncan Jones film, which I have all best intentions, it didn't really work. We had an Angry Birds adaptation, a Ratchet and Clank adaptation, Rampage with The Rock.
Yeah, terrible. The arcade game was better.
We had another go at, as you could attest to after spending all of that money there. That's a lovely story. We had another reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise with Alicia Vikander in the role, which actually is okay. The thing about it.
Do you know who that was directed by?
Go on.
It was directed by the Norwegian guy that did The Wave.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, from disaster movie scenes. Yeah.
Wow.
Watch The Wave instead.
What's happened with the current crop of video game adaptations is that they're adapting games that have come out in the last 10 or 15 years, right? And what's happened in video games that have come out in that period of time is that they have become amazing. And as a result, we have an inversion of what happened back in the noughties and the 90s, where we used to have games that were photocopies, bad kind of watery photocopies of movies, right? Where we had literal bad adaptations of movies, right, in video game form. And now what's happening is that we're getting bad movie adaptations of amazing cinematic gaming experiences. And it's a really big hurdle for any video game adaptation right now to be successful, because the original experience are just so immersive and so amazing and so special. It's hard to compete unless you do something totally different and radical, which I think is why Detective Pikachu is successful, because you don't know what's going on. It's throwing you into this world and giving us new characters, and it's doing a twist on the game mechanics, on the game experience. So it's making it cinematic rather than just photocopying the plot of one of the games and kind of changing it a little bit and putting it up on the screen with CG, fancier CG, maybe. That's it.
One of the most popular forms of passive entertainment right now in the world, and it is making multi-millionaires out of thousands of people, are guys playing video games and millions and millions and millions of people just watching them playing video games, which is almost the equivalent of going along and watching a movie version of these games. But people prefer to stay home and watch PewDiePie or that Irish guy,
Jacksepticeye,
playing video games, and they are making they've got like 50 million in the bank account because people love watching them play video games.
Because there's a concept in the video game world called ludonarratives, and it's where stories emerge within the playing of the game. And so these guys are, when they play their own video games or film themselves playing video games, create their own ludonarratives using a kind of a procedurally created game like a Minecraft or a shoot 'em up. So every time they play the game, they're bringing their own personality onto the game.
So movies can't compete with that.
And I'm seeing it with my own children. My own children, when they get time on YouTube at the weekend, my son is watching people play video games. That is what he's doing. He's watching people play Minecraft, or he's watching people play, other games, Legend of Zelda, and maybe learn from them, but like actually enjoys watching them, enjoys seeing the things they do, enjoys listening to them, enjoys their own kind of like, oh my god, I opened the door. Sometimes it can be really annoying, but that's the thing.
It's very strange because it's a complete generational thing where it's just Generation Z that are really into that.
Yeah.
On the whole, I would say.
Because I can see how it happens. Because I've played games with my son. I played Minecraft with my son. Myself and my son have started this world, and we've been playing it for years. And we go on little adventures in this world, and we've discovered mountains, and we have little emergent ludonarratives, or stuff happens that it's kind of funny between us. Like we went on an adventure and something stupid happened and we died, and it's a story that we still talk about. Stories come up from those games that we still can fondly talk about. It's like a little shared experience, and so
that's class.
It is class, and so I think that's what the medium of gaming offers to people is experiences, and where video games is like it's more passive.
Will I give you my pick?
Please do, yeah. Go on.
So I watched a load of movies. I didn't really feel anything towards any of them. I was debating whether I would go with the scene from Angry Birds where they tried to heist the base of the purple bird creature in the second one. And they go into the men's room and they try to steal the keys. They're in a sort of a costume. There's about 6 of the birds in the costume together, and the bird is taking a piss, and they're trying to steal the keys. God. And one of the little yellow birds is having to pretend to be the penis, and he's spitting.
Pretend to pee pee.
And I thought, maybe that'll be my scene. And I thought, no, not really. And I thought, well, what is it about any of these games that has stuck with me? And the one that I kept coming back to, and I thought, well, look, I've given bullshit picks in the past, so why not just give another bullshit pick? I thought one of the most evocative, compelling, and cinematic scenes that I can remember from any tangential sort of adaptation of a game was the promotional scene that was used to sell the game Dead Island.
Oh, yeah, man. I actually know what you're on about.
Cinema. I saw it in the cinema, this trailer.
Yeah.
2012, I think it was. And it played backwards. And it had this gorgeous bespoke music. Yeah. And you got to see a little girl in Miami who was a zombie rise up off the ground, float back into the hotel window, and see her and her dad fight to save her and save themselves as the scene played backwards. And I thought that was an incredible scene. I never played the game. I know that the game didn't really live up to that piece of marketing material, but and I know that they did recreations of it, live action recreations. But of all material I could think of related to games, that is probably the most memorable and the most captivating. So I'm going to say that is my pick. A cutscene.
Kevin, I have a hot take that I want to share with you, right?
Oh,
and
okay.
I think we might be lining up on this, because I think there's a certain genre of film that is actually a really good adaptation, a representation of video game mechanics, or the experience to video game mechanics, but they're not adaptations of video games.
The Matrix.
Not The Matrix. No. time loop movies.
Yeah.
They recreate the experience of playing a video game. You're thrown into a world. You don't know, you have to learn how to navigate this world. You die and you are taken back to the start, and you have to re-navigate that world and figure out how to do
with
better
the information that you've picked up and learned through dying. So you actually you learn through death.
Yes. So, and what film in recent times has that basic idea as its central premise, Kevin?
It is the episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, Cause and Effect.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
It is.
Core shutdown is unsuccessful. We are losing antimatter containment.
We've got to eject the core!
Ejection systems offline. Core breach is imminent. All hands abandon ship! Repeat! All hands abandon...
Except that the hero moment in that episode should have gone to Beverly Crusher, because she was the one that figured it out, and instead they gave the data. And I think that is just fan service and maybe slightly sexism of the time, where they decided to make the most popular character the hero at the very, very end of that episode, when it should have been Dr. Crusher's moment. Yeah. Anyway, it's got to be Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. Abso-fucking-lutely.
What I am about to tell you sounds crazy. But you have to listen to me. Your very lives depend on it. This is not the end. You see, this isn't the first time. We've had this conversation. What day is it?
Judgment Day. You just came in with the fresh recruits.
Edge of Tomorrow is a fucking incredible adaptation of a video game that never existed.
That might be my favorite Tom Cruise movie of the 21st century, even more so than Minority Report and War of the Worlds. Edge of Tomorrow was such a blast. Tom Cruise playing a dislikable guy who has to learn through failure to save the world.
And ultimately, through repeating and learning and failing, he ends up developing more powers and basically becoming a kind of a god in that world. He becomes superpowered. And that's what you do when you play a video game over and over and over again. If you keep dying as Mario on that first level, you come back and you learn where the shells are. You learn the routine. You learn the patterns. And that's what Edge of Tomorrow is. That's what Groundhog Day is.
Source code, yeah. You've written
one of these movies as well, Kevin.
No, rephrase that. I've written a script to a movie that didn't get made, but it was a very good script. It was called Emma's Dead, and I loved it so much. Anyway.
Great script. So that's my hot take, that time loop movies are my favorite adaptations of video games, but they're not adaptations of video games. They're adaptation of video game mechanics.
Yes. Happy Death Day, that type of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good hot
cool.
take. We always have one. That's a good one. It's better than video game adaptations.
Yeah. I'm sorry? What was that again?
I'm a god.
You're a god.
I'm a god. I'm not the god. I don't think.
I wanted to say a couple of the ones that I really like, the actual ones that were direct video game adaptations. Werewolves Within is actually decent. It's based on a VR game. It's kind of decent because the whole concept of the VR game is that you and 6 other people or 7 other people are wearing headsets, and you have to guess who the werewolf is amongst the 4 or 5 of you, and you're sitting in front of them, and they're real players, they're real people you're having a discussion with. It's quite funny, and the movie is an adaptation of that concept. So it's basically like a horror movie, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's all right. I found it a bit tiresome, but it's all right.
For my pick, there was a bunch of games, a bunch of movies that were inspired by video games that I really have to highlight. Wreck-It Ralph is really cute. I think it's a lovely...
Oh, that is good. Yeah.
And I love the opening scene of that, where what to do, this is my point, is that video games should do a spin on the game that they're adapting. So in the case of Wreck-It Ralph, it wasn't an actual game, but there's actual video game characters in it, like from Street Fighter and other old arcade stuff. And there's a great opening scene in that where Ralph is basically an AA meeting for video game bad guys, where there's what's bison and there's zombies and stuff like that, and they're sitting around saying it's okay to be bad. And Ralph, and it's like, I love the kind of the core idea of that movie, and I think that's a really cool scene.
Fellow bad guys, we've all felt what you're feeling, and we've come to terms with it.
Really? Right here? I'm Zangief, I'm bad guy.
Hi, Zangief.
Hi, Zangief. I relate to you, Ralph. When I hit bottom, I was crushing man's skull like sparrow egg between my thighs. And I think, why do you have to be so bad, Zangief? Why can't you be more like good guy? Then I have moment of clarity. If Zangief is good guy, who'll crush man's skull like sparrow's egg between thighs? And I say, Zangief, you are bad guy. But this does not mean you're bad guy.
David Cronenberg did a very interesting movie based on video games, which was Existence, and I watched that.
Right, yeah.
Jude Law. Look, it's not totally successful, but there's some very interesting ideas in there, and I think the one thing that it gets really wrong about the future of the video game industry is that video games were kind of going to be a cult-like entertainment experience where only a small group of people will get together in kind of like creepy churches to demo the latest hit game or potential hit game.
That's true to my reality.
I thought the Jumanji Next Level was actually a kind of a clever enough-ish take on it. Yeah. It was like, instead of board game, it's a video game. That was okay. My pick is going to come from the very, very first video game inspired movies. There was Wizard, which was in 1989. The whole film is basically a promotional tool for the upcoming game Super Mario Bros. 3 and the selling of the Power Glove. Those are the most significant elements about the movie. It was a promotional movie, and I think it's only worth watching for nostalgia reasons. Another one that I watched that I thought was quite charming and a bit of a rip-off was The Last Starfighter from 1984.
Got great visual effects.
For its time. It was revolutionary for its time.
Come on, Alex, they're here!
Alex Rogan had a dream.
You really are leaving here, aren't you?
To be as far away from here as possible.
You get your chance. When it comes, you gotta grab it with both hands.
It started with a game.
You gonna bust the record.
But it wasn't just any game.
You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada.
And then one night...
Centauri's the name. We have to talk about a matter of utmost importance. Step into my office.
The guys who made the special effects for The Last Starfighter were inventing things. They were inventing the wheel, for the things. They were laying the path for things to come. That's a film in which, we had a kid who lives in a trailer park. His only pastime is playing this video game called The Last Starfighter, and it turns out it's kind of like a King Arthur's quest, where that game itself is the sword in the stone, and when he gets a high score, this spaceman comes down and says, we want to recruit you for the Starfighter League. And it's kind of a Spielberg knockoff, directed by Nick Castle. It's ultimately actually quite charming.
Who played Michael Myers in Halloween?
Oh my God. I was saying to myself, why is Nick Castle so familiar? Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. It all comes back to Halloween, man. It always comes back to Halloween.
It does when I'm on, Mike.
My pick is a real nostalgia pick. And it probably is the first video game movie, or a game to be inspired by video games. And it's from Tron.
Trapped inside an electronic arena where love and escape do not compute. The journey begins across an electronic sea on cycles made of light.
Of course it's Tron.
Tron came out in 1982. It was directed by Steven Lisberger, who was an animator. it had revolutionary visual effects, but the effects they used to kind of create those light suits it was all hand-drawn and, using animation, traditional stuff, but it also had revolutionary CG effects, right? They made a very interesting, stylistically very compelling sequel in 2010, but maybe narratively not as interesting. Tron itself has a lot of big ideas going on. Now, the film overall probably is a little bit too dry and maybe takes itself a little bit too seriously for most of it, but my God, it's fucking cool to look at. And it's got Jeff Bridges, who's great. So
when did you see it?
Oh, I saw it back in the 80s. I think it was like when it was on video, so I saw it way back in the day, and it blew me away when I saw it back in the day. The scene from that I really like is the light cycle scene, because I was talking about, how video game adaptations usually are kind of shitty, right? And when the movie Tron opens up, we actually see someone in an arcade playing an arcade console called the Light Cycle, and all it is just two lines zigzagging across the screen, kind of like two-player Snake almost, right? But the camera goes through the computer arcade and it goes into the world where we see that these light cycles are piloted by these programs with human avatars, and it's absolutely class. And what I loved about it is that movie did what I was imagining in my head as a kid. I was imagining what these little pixels must be like, what they actually what they were representing. And I think this movie does an incredible job of fulfilling the imagination of young kids who are playing those really low res 8-bit video games back in the day. So I think it's an interesting and fun little film. It's not an amazing film, but it's a charming one for me.
Tron, that's a good choice.
For our final season. No, honestly, for a topic that really
this
had
was
a
a
lot
rough
of
one.
Yeah, it was like a disaster. This topic was a disastrous episode because
we
the films
needed
just weren't
more
very good.
Gloria Swanson.
Yeah, there really weren't that many good movies to pick from. And I watched several. And I abandoned several, to be honest with you. But it doesn't matter, because you know what that means? It's the end of the episode, Kevin, and the end of this season. Amazing.
It is.
We can go under summer holidays.
Well, wouldn't say that.
Oh.
It's the end of season 3, but we're not going away because we've got season 3.5.
What?
We're going to do something slightly different. We're going to do our second-rate show.
Oh,
That's
my
the
God.
title of it.
Yeah.
You'll remember when we went on hiatus at the end of season 1, we did a mini-series of audio commentaries. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to do instead this summer is, I'm not going to give it away, but you'll find out next week. But in order for us to be able to do the episode next week, we will need to spin the wheel, Will.
Oh.
But this is not the scene wheel. This is a different wheel. And all will be revealed next week.
Am I not even allowed to say what type of things are on the wheel or what things I see written on the wheel?
It is years. for every year that we've been born, there is a slot on the wheel, and we're going to spin it, and we're going to get a year. And that year is going to direct us for the episode. But it's called The Best Bits Second Rate Show, and that title is a pun. But Will, end of the season, it's flown by, it's also dragged by. I'm really sorry that you had to edit this episode. I bet it was a bastard.
It was a bastard to research, and it's been a bastard to edit. I'm already saying that right now. But we look, this is what happens in a season. Sometimes you get dreams. Sometimes you get the episode that is just a dream, and sometimes you get an episode that is just a tough topic, and this was a tough topic. But I was glad I filled in a few gaps. And overall in the season, I'm so glad we had such a nice season. So many good topics and so many great episodes, including my favourite episode ever, which was Best I Love You Scene. I absolutely adore that episode. Fantastic work, Kevin. Fantastic work. Made me cry.
Oh, thank you, Will. My favourite episode was the live show because I didn't have to do anything. No, I did a ton for that episode, actually. What am I saying?
You did loads, Kevin. Kevin, I think we should say ta-ta, and
Before you do that, I just want to say we're also on Patreon. We've got loads of extra episodes on there. Sign up. For the price of a pint, you can get at least 30 extra episodes. And we'd love to hear from you on Discord as well, which is our own little chat server where we talk to all our patrons. But get involved, jump in, and we'll send you a free badge.
So Discord is hopping, absolutely hopping. It's great crack.
It is. All right, spin the wheel.
Spinning the wheel. Happy summer holidays, and spin. You said it goes. You said it goes for as long. It has the same number of years as that we were alive. So why does this go back to 1952? How old are you, Kevin?
I'm younger than you, so why does it go back to 1950? You tell me.
I'm the senior party. That's right. Golly gee.
You are.
Goodbye, everyone.
Love you.
The Best Bits podcast is produced by Will and Kevin.
All audio clips and music heard in this episode is the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff.
If you have any notes, comments, scene suggestions, or just want to get in touch with us, email us at bestbitspodcast@gmail.com.
And here is a clip from the lad's latest Mini Bits bonus show. The full episode, plus 80 more, are available on their Patreon.
See ya, Mossy. I gotta go in and record another one of these fucking mini bits.
Oh, yes, this is all it.
I know. What are you doing?
Right now, on the Academy screener site, and I hit play, because there's only a few films on it for the first month or two. There's only like about less than 10 films on it. And Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is on here. So I hit play on that, and I'm hearing we're out in Afghanistan, and I'm hearing all the dirt, and I hear vehicles, and I hear the sound effects of characters walking. But when characters open their mouths, I don't hear any dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
there's no dialogue.
They've uploaded the wrong audio track. It's like that Tom Cruise trailer where it was just the sound effects.
Have you met an SP?
Yeah, and this film has been up on the screen site for a few weeks now, and they still have the wrong one here. Well, I tell you what films are actually up there for all Academy members to see, and to see what they've put up there.
But first of all, let's just throw to our theme. And I have to say, the feedback from my thank you ballad was quite fierce.
The power of Christ compels you!
So I asked Mossy, who is a friend of my dad's at the quiz, sing us a theme tune.
Oh.
So over to Mossy.
Hit the cards. I'm fine, I'll get it done in one take. It's the Many Bits. Or podcast, what will they say? With Will and Kevin Cock.
The best fucking podcast.
That'll do.
That'll do.
My God.
Thank you, Mossy.
He would make an angel weep. That voice would make an angel weep.
Telling you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Boolabus.
It only cost us 2 months patron money, so,
Is that all? Money well spent in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, you can't get much for €20. Will, you were telling me before the intro that you were looking at stuff on the Academy Screeners website.
The Academy Awards. So for official members, yes. So they don't send out DVDs anymore. So how you do all your streaming stuff is all via the Academy website. And the streaming season has begun, which is exciting. So it means for the rest of the year...
Did it ever end?
It does end. It does. After the Academy Awards, there's about 2 weeks, and they take all the films down, and then they begin again at the end of August, and they all start coming up. So it's a whole new collection of hopefuls.
So how many films are on there?
Right now, about 10. Actually, 10 exactly. I can tell you the 10.
Oh, go on, tell me.
John Wick 4.
For the Oscars. Oh, because there's like...
Yes, because they're adding in stunt category, aren't they?
Are they adding it in? Is the stunt category being added?
I believe they're adding in some sort of stunt category.
Breaking news straight from an Academy member's mouth.
Because they're adding in stunt category, aren't they?
Slash film.
I don't know. Did I read this in an article? I feel they were.
I
felt they were.
Have long overlooked stunts, and my God, it's pure artistry.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly, well, these days, it's all fucking rubber computer generated avatars.
That's why we should highlight, that's why these people should be getting their Oscars when someone's actually gone out then. Yeah,
go back,
absolutely.
Go back and give it to your man from Mad Max who broke his legs.
Give it to Richard Farnsworth, who was a stuntman and starred in The Straight Story. Yeah, Richard Farnsworth was a career stuntman. Absolutely.
Wasn't that also the case with Machete? What's your man, Machete? Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo. Really?
Trejo or Trejo?
I always call him Trejo, but he just says, call me Danny.
I was going to say that back to you.
Nah.
I was like, just that.
Weird.
Because we just call